I heard the engine before I saw the car, a low, aggressive growl that didn't belong in our quiet Portland neighborhood, the kind of sound that makes curtains twitch and neighbors peek through blinds. It was Thanksgiving morning, 10:47 a.m. I remember because I was pulling the turkey from the oven when that sound cut through the kitchen window. 22 pounds, herb rubbed, the way my father taught me back when Derek was still small enough to stand on a chair and help baste. The Audi R8 was cherry red, convertible. It parked in my driveway like it owned the place. Derek climbed out first, aviator sunglasses catching the November sun. My son, 37 years old, wearing a leather jacket I'd never seen before. Behind him, Madison emerged in slow motion, designer heels clicking against the concrete, oversized sunglasses, hair blown out like she'd just stepped off a magazine cover. But it was her wrist that made my hands freeze on the oven mitts. A bracelet, gold and intricate, with a nautical design I would recognize anywhere, because I'd traced that same pattern with my fingers 1,000 times. The helm wheel from my father's boat, the Mary Catherine, named after my grandmother. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. The boat my father restored plank by plank over 15 years. The boat where he taught Derek to tie a bowline knot when he was 7 years old. The boat Derek had sold 3 weeks ago without asking me, without even telling me until after the papers were signed. "Mom!" Derek's voice was too bright, too loud. He bounded up the porch steps like a game show host. "Happy Thanksgiving. You're not going to believe the year we've had." Madison followed, her phone already out, angling for a selfie. I stood in the doorway, flour on my apron, oven mitts still on. She positioned herself so I was visible in the background, blurred, domestic, irrelevant, while her smile dominated the frame. Blessed. Family time. Upgrade. Complete. I watched her type it in real time. "Love the bracelet," I managed. Madison's smile sharpened. "Oh, this?" Derek had it custom made from some old boat parts. The jeweler said the metal was actually really valuable. Who knew trash could be treasure, right? She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. My father's helm, melted down, reshaped into an accessory for a woman who'd never once asked him how his day was, never visited him in the hospital during his final month, never stood at his grave after the funeral while I packed up his house alone because Derek was swamped at work. "Where's Aunt Donna?" Derek asked, already moving past me into the house. "She's bringing the pies. Should be here by noon." The dining room filled up quickly. Donna arrived with store-bought pumpkin pie and a new haircut that cost more than my electric bill. My cousin Janet brought her husband Phil, who immediately planted himself in front of the football game. Madison's mother Cheryl flew in from Arizona, all turquoise jewelry and aggressive hugs. By 1 p.m., my table was full. My china, the set my mother left me, the one I hand-washed after every holiday, was covered with food I'd spent 2 days preparing, the turkey I'd brined for 18 hours, the stuffing made from my father's recipe, the one he'd written on a grease-stained index card in 1987, the cranberry sauce I'd made from scratch because my father always said the canned stuff tasted like disappointment in a can. Nobody noticed. "So, Derek," Phil said, pointing his fork, "heard you made some big moves lately." "Smart man. Liquidating old assets." Derek grinned. "You have no idea. That boat was just sitting there, you know. Dad always talked about restoring it, but realistically, who has time? Madison and I decided to invest in our future instead." He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. The bracelet caught the light. "Madison deserves the best," Donna chimed in, raising her wine glass. "It's about time someone in this family understood the value of living in the present instead of hoarding the past." She looked directly at me when she said it. I cut the turkey, served the plates, refilled the wine glasses, smiled when I was supposed to smile. Madison was recording everything. Her phone propped against the centerpiece, filming a time-lapse for her Instagram stories. Every few minutes she'd grab it, check the frame, make sure her bracelet was visible. At 3:17 p.m., she posted the selfie from the porch. I know because Cheryl squealed and held up her own phone. "Maddie, this is hilarious. Look at the caption." I leaned over. I shouldn't have, but I did. Finally cleared out the family clutter. Out with the old, in with the gold. Sometimes you have to let go of dead weight to make room for what really matters. New beginnings. Living my best life. Sorry, not sorry. Dead weight. My father. Reduced to a hashtag. Helen, you okay? Janet asked. You look pale. Just tired. Long morning. I excused myself, locked myself in the bathroom, sat on the edge of the tub and stared at the tile grout for 10 minutes while laughter echoed through the walls. When I came back, they were passing around Derek's phone admiring photos of the car from every angle, the interior, the dashboard, the license plate, Maddie and Dee. 18,000, Derek was saying. Can you believe someone actually paid that much for a boat that old? I almost felt guilty taking the money. Almost. Donna refilled her glass. Helen, you're being awfully quiet. Aren't you happy for them? 7 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Of course, I said. I'm thrilled, Madison smirked. The dinner ended around 6 p.m. Everyone hugged me on their way out. Those brief, obligatory squeezes that mean nothing. Derek kissed my cheek. Great dinner, Mom. Same time next year? They drove away in that red Audi, Madison's bracelet glinting through the passenger window. I cleaned up alone, scraped plates, wrapped leftovers, washed the china by hand, each piece taking 3 times longer than it should have because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. At 9:30 p.m., I was sitting in the living room with the lights off, staring at the photo on the mantel. My father and Derek, summer of 1993. Derek holding up his first fish, a tiny mackerel, grinning with missing front teeth. My father's hand on his shoulder, proud. I'd turned that photo face down when the doorbell rang. 11:04 p.m. I checked the clock twice because who rings doorbells after 11 on Thanksgiving? I opened the door. An old man stood on my porch, 70, maybe older, white hair, weather-beaten face, wearing a wool peacoat that had seen better decades. He was holding a large yellow envelope, the old-fashioned kind with string closure. Mrs. Carter? His voice was rough, like he'd spent a lifetime shouting over wind. Yes, Thomas Whitmore. My grandfather was Samuel's first business partner, back when they ran the charter service in the 80s. He paused, studying my face. I recognized you from the photos. They're still hanging in the boat. Your father, he never took them down. My throat tightened. I don't understand. Why are you... Your father made me promise something 15 years ago. He was very specific. Whitmore held out the envelope. He said if the Mary Catherine was ever sold before you personally set foot on her deck and opened the safe, I was to find you. Immediately. Safe? What safe? There's a hidden compartment under the main deck. Your father built it himself in 2003. He told me that if anyone other than you tried to sell that boat, it meant something had gone very wrong. His eyes were sad. Mrs. Carter, I'm sorry for what happened. Your son, he didn't know. The coordinates are inside. He pressed the envelope into my hands. Wait! I started, but he was already walking back down the driveway toward an old pickup truck. Mr. Whitmore, what's in the safe? He paused, one hand on the truck door. Your inheritance, ma'am, the real one. Your father spent 40 years making sure you'd never have to depend on anyone. He climbed into the truck. The boat's docked at Marina Point, slip 47. I'd suggest you go soon, before anyone else figures out what they missed. The engine started. He drove away. I stood on my porch in the November cold, holding a yellow envelope that weighed almost nothing but felt like an anchor. Inside, I could see the edges of something, paper, folded many times, and something else. Small. Flat. Cardboard. I went inside, locked the door, sat at the kitchen table under the single light above the stove. The envelope wasn't sealed, just the string, wrapped in a figure 8 pattern. I unwound it slowly. Inside, a folded piece of aged paper. And underneath, separated by tissue, puzzle pieces. Nautical puzzle pieces, the edges worn soft with age. I lifted one piece to the light. On the back, in my father's handwriting, "Start here, princess." My hands started shaking again, because I knew this puzzle. We'd done it every summer from the time I was 9 until I left for college. A lighthouse, a sailing ship, coordinates in the corner that I'd always assumed were decorative. I'd never finished it after he died. Couldn't bear to open the box. But here it was, in pieces, in an envelope delivered by a stranger. With a note in my father's handwriting, paper clipped to the puzzle pieces. Helen, if you're reading this, someone tried to take what I built for you. Don't let them. The coordinates are in the puzzle. You'll remember how we always started. Lighthouse first, then the ship, then the sky. What's under that deck is yours, not Derek's, not anyone else's. I saved every dollar, every tip, every overtime shift for 40 years, so my girl would never have to beg. The combination is your birthday. Day, month, year. No zeros. I love you. I'm sorry I'm not there to open it with you. Dad, I read it 3 times. Then I spread the puzzle pieces across the table and started sorting them by color, the way he taught me. It was 2:47 a.m. when I placed the last piece. The coordinates were there, hidden in the decorative border, latitude and longitude, and written in tiny script along the bottom edge of the frame, Slip 47, Marina Point, under the deck. For Helen only. I took a photo of the completed puzzle with my phone. Then I sat back and stared at it until the sun came up. I didn't sleep. By 6 a.m. Friday, I was in my car heading toward Marina Point with the completed puzzle photograph on my phone and my father's note folded in my coat pocket. The marina was nearly empty, just a few early fishermen loading gear into small boats. The November air smelled like salt and diesel. Gulls screamed overhead. Slip 47 was at the far end of the east dock. The Mary Catherine sat lower in the water than I remembered. Her blue paint was faded, the name on the stern barely legible, but she was still afloat. Still whole. I hadn't stepped on this boat since my father's funeral. Mrs. Carter. I turned. Thomas Whitmore was walking down the dock carrying a toolbox and a thermos. He was wearing the same peacoat from last night. Figured you'd come early, he said. Your father was always an early riser, too. Used to meet him here at dawn for coffee before charter runs. He handed me the thermos. Thought you might need this. My throat was too tight to answer. I took the thermos. The compartment's hidden well, Whitmore said, climbing aboard. Sam was Navy, knew how to build things that stayed hidden. He moved toward the stern, knelt down, and ran his fingers along what looked like a solid piece of decking. Help me with this. Together, we lifted a section of the deck. It came up in one piece, hinges concealed beneath waterproof sealant. Underneath was a metal panel with a combination lock. Your birthday, Whitmore said quietly. He told me that much. My hands were shaking so badly I had to try 3 times. 11/03/1960. The lock clicked. Inside was a fireproof box, military grade. Whitmore lifted it out carefully and set it on the deck between us. I'll give you privacy, he said. I'll be in my truck if you need anything. He left. I sat on the deck of my father's boat with that box in my lap and cried for 5 minutes before I could open it. Inside, 17 gold bars, each one stamped with official markings I didn't understand, but engraved on top of each stamp, crude, done by hand with something sharp, were dates. 11/03/1960, my birth. 06/15/1985, my wedding. 22/1986, Derek's birth, and 14 others. The day I graduated nursing school. The day I bought my first house. The day my mother died. The day I got my first promotion. Every significant moment of my life, marked in gold, beneath the bars, letters, 40 of them, bundled in groups of 10, tied with twine. Each envelope was labeled by year. 1984, Year 1. 1985, Year 2. I opened the first one with trembling fingers. Helen started the fun today. Saved $2,100 this year from tips and overtime. Bought the first bar in November. Had them engrave your birthday on it. You were 24. You don't know I'm doing this. Nobody does. You shouldn't have to worry about money like I did. Like my father did. I'm going to make sure of that. Dad, I read 5 more. Each one documented his year. Every extra shift. Every charter tip saved instead of spent. Every sacrifice. Year 12, 1995. Derek turned 9 this year. Good kid. Smart. But I worry he doesn't understand what hard work means. You spoil him, princess, but that's what mothers do. Saved $4,800 this year. Bought 2 more bars. Year 23, 2006, getting older. Hands aren't what they used to be. Doctor says I need to slow down. I told him I'll slow down when my daughter never has to ask anyone for anything. Saved $3,400. 1 more bar. Year 38, 2021. This is probably my last letter. The cancer's back. They say 6 months, maybe less. I have 17 bars now. Current value around $340,000. It's all yours, Helen. Not Derek's. Not his wife's. Yours. If you're reading this, it means someone sold the Mary Catherine without asking you first. That means Derek didn't respect what I built, or someone got to him. Don't let them take this. I spent 40 years making sure you'd be free. I love you, Princess. Dad. The letter was dated 3 weeks before he died. I sat on that boat until noon, reading every single letter, watching my father's handwriting get shakier over the years, watching the amounts get smaller as his body failed, but his determination never wavered. By the time I finished, the sun was high and my face was sticky with dried tears. I took photos of everything, the bars, the letters. Then I carefully packed it all back into the box, locked it, and carried it to my car. Whitmore was waiting by my driver's door. He was a good man, he said simply. The best. What are you going to do? I looked back at the boat, at the name barely visible on the stern. I don't know yet. But that was a lie. I already knew. I kept the box in my bedroom closet behind winter coats. Didn't tell anyone. Spent the weekend researching gold values, safe deposit boxes, estate lawyers. On Monday, I drove to 3 different banks, asked questions, made appointments. On Tuesday, Derek called. Hey, Mom. Madison and I are hosting a little Christmas party next month. Just close family. You'll come, right? Of course. Great. Oh, and hey, random question. Did Dad ever mention anything about, I don't know, investments or savings accounts you didn't know about? My pulse spiked. Why do you ask? No reason. Maddie was just going through some old paperwork of Grandpa's that we found in the garage, and she thought she saw something about. Never mind. Probably nothing. See you at the party. He hung up. I stared at my phone. Madison was going through my father's paperwork. How? I'd cleaned out his house myself 3 years ago. Donated most of it. Kept some boxes in my own garage. I went to the garage. The boxes were still there, but they'd been opened. Papers shuffled. 1 box had been retaped. She'd been in my house. Wednesday morning, I drove back to Marina Point. Asked the dockmaster if anyone else had been asking about the Mary Catherine. Funny you mention it, he said. Young woman was here Saturday. Real pretty. Took a bunch of photos of the boat. Said she was doing research for a blog about vintage vessels. Tipped me $50 just to let her walk the dock. What did she look like? Blonde. Fancy sunglasses. Had this gold bracelet. Real unique design. Thursday afternoon, a letter arrived. Certified mail. Law offices of Whitfield and Cross. I recognized the name immediately. Gerald Whitfield. The same lawyer who'd represented my aunt's estate 8 years ago when she tried to claim I'd manipulated her into leaving me her house. We'd settled, but it had cost me $12,000 in legal fees and 6 months of hell. I opened it. Dear Mrs. Carter, we represent Madison and Derek Carter in matters pertaining to the estate of Samuel Joseph Carter, deceased. It has come to our client's attention that certain assets belonging to the estate may have been concealed or improperly distributed. Specifically, our clients have reason to believe that valuable items were stored aboard the vessel Mary Catherine at the time of sale, and that you may have removed these items without proper disclosure to all legal heirs. Under Maine inheritance law, adult children have standing to claim equitable distribution of assets from a parent's estate, particularly when those assets were undisclosed during probate. We request that you provide a full accounting of any items recovered from the vessel within 10 business days. Failure to comply will result in legal action to compel disclosure and seek equitable distribution. Sincerely, Gerald Whitfield, Esquerns. I read it twice. Then I called the one person I trusted. Whitmore? It's Helen Carter. I need your help. Thomas Whitmore came to my house that evening. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd assembled the puzzle 5 days earlier, and I showed him everything: the letters, the photos of the gold bars, the lawyer's demand. Madison's playing a long game, he said, studying the letter. She knows about the gold. Question is, how much does Derek know? I don't know anymore. Whitfield's a shark. He lost to you once. He won't want to lose again. Whitmore folded the letter. You need to move fast. Get the gold somewhere they can't touch it. Where? He was quiet for a moment. Your father mentioned something once, years ago after he came back from a Navy reunion. Said he'd met an old shipmate who worked at a private bank in Switzerland. Said they specialized in protecting assets for veterans who didn't trust the system. Switzerland? I know it sounds crazy, but Sam was serious. He even wrote down the name, said if anything ever happened to him, if you ever needed to hide money from the wrong people, this bank would help. Whitmore pulled out his phone, scrolled through old notes. Here, Banque Privée du Léman, Geneva. I looked it up after he died. It's real. Been around since 1873. I stared at the name on his screen. My father's stories. The ones Derek always rolled his eyes at. The tales about secret Navy accounts and offshore banking that we all dismissed as old man rambling. They were real. I'll look into it, I said. By Monday, everything started falling apart. I went to schedule my annual mammogram, a routine appointment I'd had on the books for 3 months. The receptionist frowned at her computer. Mrs. Carter, I'm showing your insurance was canceled. That's impossible. I've had the same plan for 6 years. According to this, it was terminated on December 1st, just last week. I called the insurance company from the parking lot, sat in my car while they put me on hold for 40 minutes. Finally, a representative came back. Mrs. Carter, the policy was canceled by the primary account holder, Derek Carter. He called on November 29th and requested immediate termination. Said you'd be moving to a different plan. My hands went numb. Can you reinstate it? You'd need to reapply. New coverage wouldn't start until January 1st. That's 30 days without insurance. I had blood pressure medication that cost $340 a month without coverage. The mammogram was $890 out of pocket. I called Derek. It went straight to voicemail. I called again an hour later. Voicemail. I texted, "You canceled my health insurance?" 3 hours later, he responded, "Oh shit, Mom. That was an accident. I was updating our plan and must have clicked the wrong thing. I'll fix it tomorrow." He didn't fix it. Sunday after church, 3 women I'd known for 20 years stopped me in the parking lot. "Helen, we heard about your situation," Margaret said carefully. "Donna mentioned you've been under a lot of stress." "I'm fine. It's just, she said you've been talking about finding gold? On your father's old boat?" Patricia's voice was gentle, pitying. "Honey, grief can do strange things to our minds." I felt my face go hot. Donna said what? "We're not judging. We just want you to know we're praying for you." They walked away before I could respond. I found Donna in the fellowship hall pouring coffee. "What did you tell them?" She turned, surprised. "What?" "Margaret, Patricia. They think I'm losing my mind. What did you tell them?" Donna sighed. "Helen, you've been acting strange. Going to the marina at dawn, talking about hidden compartments and secret gold. People are worried. You told them I was making it up. I told them you were grieving. That maybe you needed help. You mean you told them I was crazy. I didn't use that word, but that's what you meant." She set down the coffee pot. "Derek is thriving. He finally has a wife who supports him, a car he's proud of, a life that's moving forward. And you're sitting in your house, clinging to a dead man's boat and inventing treasure hunts. Can't you just be happy for him?" I left. Tuesday. Father Michael called. "Helen, I hope you don't mind. I wanted to check in. Donna mentioned you might be struggling with some confusion?" Confusion. "I'm not confused, Father." "Of course not. But sometimes grief manifests in unexpected ways. I knew your father well. He was a good man. But sometimes we create elaborate stories to cope with loss. I'm not creating stories, Helen." His voice was so kind it made me want to scream. "I'm here if you need to talk, or if you need a referral to someone who specializes in—" I hung up. Wednesday afternoon, I was cleaning out a closet when I found it. A shoebox. pushed to the back of the top shelf behind old photo albums. I pulled it down, opened it. Inside, pictures I hadn't looked at in years. Derek as a baby, Derek's first day of school, Derek at his college graduation, and underneath, a photo I'd forgotten about. Derek at 7 years old, standing on the deck of the Mary Catherine, holding up a tiny mackerel with both hands, his 2 front teeth missing, his grin enormous. Behind him, my father's hand rested on his shoulder. I turned the photo over. My father's handwriting, in blue pen, August 1993. First catch. He's a natural. For the man who's going to protect my daughter when I can't. Captoro, Samuel Carter. I sat on the floor of the closet and stared at that photo for an hour. The man who was going to protect me had sold my father's boat for $18,000 and a sports car. The man who was going to protect me had canceled my health insurance and didn't return my calls. The man who was going to protect me was threatening to sue me for my own inheritance. Thursday morning, the registered letter arrived. 47 pages. Demand for accounting and equitable distribution. Carter vs. Carter. I skimmed the first 10 pages. Legal language I barely understood, but the accusations were clear enough. Mrs. Helen Carter maintained exclusive control over Samuel Carter during his final years, isolating him from other family members and exercising undue influence over his financial decisions. Mrs. Carter failed to disclose the existence of valuable assets during probate proceedings, indicating intent to defraud rightful heirs. Mrs. Carter has refused to provide transparent accounting of assets removed from the vessel, demonstrating willful concealment. They were accusing me of abusing my father, of manipulating a dying man, of stealing from my own son. The demand was simple: provide full documentation of all assets within 18 days or face formal litigation. Estimated legal fees if the case went to trial, $35,000 minimum. At the bottom of page 47, a handwritten note, not from the lawyer. Different handwriting, feminine, looping. Helen, this doesn't have to be ugly. Just give Derek what he's entitled to. He's your son. You owe him that much. M. Madison. I sat at my kitchen table with those 47 pages spread in front of me and felt something inside me crack. Not break, crack. Because breaking would have been easier. This was the sound of something load-bearing starting to fail. The groan of a ship's hull taking on water. The moment before the choice between sinking and survival. I picked up my phone, searched for Banque Privée du Léman Geneva contact. The website was simple, elegant, discreet. I clicked, New Client Inquiry, and I began to type. The bank responded in 6 hours. Dear Mrs. Carter, we have reviewed your inquiry. Our records indicate that Samuel Joseph Carter maintained an account with our institution from 1969 until his passing in 2021. You are listed as the sole authorized beneficiary. We would be honored to assist you with asset protection services. Please contact our Wealth Preservation Department at your earliest convenience. Discretion. Sécurité. Legacy. Banque Privée du Léman. Stared at the email until the words blurred. My father. The man who wore the same 3 flannel shirts for a decade, who drove a 1987 pickup until the engine literally died, who saved ketchup packets from fast food restaurants just in case. That man had a Swiss bank account for 52 years. Derek had called them fairy tales. Old man stories, he'd said at the funeral, rolling his eyes when I mentioned some of Dad's Navy adventures. Mom, he probably made up half of it. I called the number in the email. A woman answered in accented English, professional, calm. I explained my situation in broad terms: inheritance, legal threats, need for discretion. We specialize in exactly these circumstances, Mrs. Carter. We can arrange secure transport and storage within 72 hours. Would you like to schedule a consultation? Yes. Excellent. I'm sending you an encrypted form. Please complete it at your convenience. She hung up before I could thank her. I sat in my kitchen, holding my phone, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: control. The doorbell rang at 8 a.m. Saturday. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. A man, early 60s, weathered face, gray beard, wearing a Navy veteran baseball cap and a canvas jacket. He was holding a folded newspaper. I opened the door with the chain still on. Mrs. Carter? Yes? My name is James Morrow. I served with your father in the Pacific, 68 to 70. I heard through Tom Whitmore about your situation. His voice was gravelly, direct. Captain Sam saved my life in Da Nang. Pulled me out of a burning barracks when nobody else would go back in. I owe him everything. I stared at him. Ma'am, I know this sounds strange, but I spent 30 years as a private investigator before I retired. Tom told me what your son and his wife are doing. His jaw tightened. It's wrong. The captain deserves better. You deserve better. I can't afford. I don't want your money. He looked me dead in the eye. I do this for Sam. He'd do it for me. No charge. Just let me help. I opened the door. Morrow worked fast. He had contacts, people who owed him favors, people who'd worked with him over 3 decades. Within a week, he had Madison's digital footprint mapped like a surveillance operation. We met at a diner outside Portland. He slid a manila folder across the table. Your daughter-in-law is in deep, he said quietly. $50,000 deep. I opened the folder. Bank statements, credit card records, screenshots of text messages. Madison owed money to 3 different loan sharks in Boston. High-interest, short-term loans that had ballooned over 18 months. The $18,000 from the boat sale? It covered exactly 6 months of interest payments. Nothing more. There's something else, Morrow said. He pulled out his phone, played a video. It was Madison, filming herself in what looked like a warehouse, surrounded by designer handbags and shoes. Her voice was bright, performative. Okay, guys, real talk? These luxury products that Pinnacle Imports tries to sell you for $300? They're garbage, like actual third-world sweatshop trash. I can get you the same quality from my supplier for $60. Link in bio. I recognized the name. Pinnacle Imports, Derek's company. When did she post this? 2 weeks ago. It went semi-viral. 40,000 views. Morrow's expression was grim. Derek's company lost a major contract 3 days later. A textile distributor in New York. $2.1 million. They cited reputational damage from affiliated social media accounts. 12 people got laid off. My stomach dropped. Does Derek know? If he does, he hasn't said anything, but his supervisor sent him a formal warning. I have a source in their HR department. I looked at the photos again. Madison smiling. Madison with her gold bracelet. My father's helm, melted down, catching the light as she gestured at knockoff handbags. There's more, Morrow said quietly. He slid another photo across the table. Madison, in a restaurant, sitting across from a man in an expensive suit. The angle was from outside through a window, but the body language was clear. Her hand on his hand on her knee. That's Vincent Caruso, one of the loan sharks. This was taken 4 days ago. I couldn't breathe. She's not paying her debts with money anymore, Morrow said. Just thought you should know what kind of person is trying to take your father's legacy. I spent the next 2 days arranging everything. The bank in Geneva sent a representative to Boston. We met in a hotel conference room, me, the representative, and a notary. I signed papers in triplicate. Transferred ownership of the 17 gold bars to an irrevocable trust. Thomas Whitmore and James Morrow were named as co-executors. The trust would disperse funds only under specific conditions, to specific beneficiaries. Derek's name appeared nowhere in the documentation. Once this is finalized, the representative said, the assets are untouchable, even by court order. Swiss law is very protective of generational wealth transfers. How long? The transfer will complete in 48 hours. I signed the last document. That night, I wrote a note by hand, short, direct. Derek, your grandfather spent 40 years saving every dollar so I would never have to beg anyone for anything. He did it because he loved me. Because he believed family meant protection, not predation. You sold his boat without asking me. You married a woman who turned his helm into jewelry. You canceled my health insurance and didn't return my calls. You let a lawyer accuse me of abusing my own father. I'm giving you 48 hours to choose. Withdraw the legal demand. Publicly apologize for the accusations. End whatever game Madison is playing. Or I transfer everything your grandfather saved into a trust that you will never, ever touch. Not a dollar, not a cent, After 48 hours, the choice is made. And like your grandfather used to say, once the ship leaves port, there's no calling it back. The clock starts when you read this. Mom, I drove to Derek's house at 11 p.m. The red Audi was in the driveway. Lights were on upstairs. I taped the envelope to the front door and left. 36 hours later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then, Mom? Derek. His voice was shaking. I got your note. And? I need to talk to you. Not on the phone. Can I come over? No. Mom, please. His voice cracked. Something happened. With Madison. I found something. I need to show you. You have 12 hours left, Derek. I know. I'm going to withdraw it. The legal thing. I'm calling Whitfield first thing Monday morning. But Mom, please. I need you to see something. It's about Madison. And the money. And he was crying now. I fucked up so bad. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my house. Bring whatever you found. Okay, thank you. Mom, I hung up. Then I called Morrow. He's breaking. I said, good, what do you need? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I want you there, outside, just in case. I'll be there. I sat in my dark kitchen and watched the clock tick toward midnight. The ship was leaving port, and I was finally at the helm. Derek arrived at 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes early. He looked like hell. Unshaven, eyes red and swollen. He was carrying a cardboard file box with both hands, like it might explode. I didn't invite him in. We stood on the porch. Show me, I said. He set the box down. His hands were shaking as he opened it. I found these last night, in our bedroom closet, hidden in a shoebox under her winter boots. He pulled out a receipt, crumpled, stained with what looked like coffee. Luxury Replicas Inc. Item, 2CT CZ solitaire ring, white gold plated, total, $319.99. I stared at it. Her engagement ring? I asked. I paid $8,000 for that ring. Real diamonds, had it appraised and everything. His voice was hollow. She sold it 6 months ago. Been wearing a fucking fake ever since. He pulled out more papers, bank statements, credit card bills, screenshots of text messages printed on regular paper. She's been lying about everything. The business she said she was starting doesn't exist. The investors she was meeting with, loan sharks. Mom, she owes $50,000 to people who do things to you if you don't pay. I know. His head snapped up. You know? I've known for 2 weeks. Then why didn't you? He stopped, closed his eyes. Because I didn't deserve to know. Because I chose her over you. I said nothing. He reached into the box again, pulled out photographs, printed photos, not phone screenshots. Someone had developed these from a camera. Madison, in a motel room. Cheap curtains, stained carpet visible in the background. With a man. Middle-aged, expensive suit. Wedding ring clearly visible. The photos were time-stamped. November 19th, 2023, 3:47 p.m., 3 days before Thanksgiving, 3 days before she sat at my table wearing my father's helm on her wrist and posted about dead weight. I found them in an envelope, Derek whispered, with a note, from him, Vincent something. It said, payment for November. December is due on the 15th. Don't make me come looking for you again. He was crying now, not quiet tears, choking, ugly sobs. I sold Grandpa's boat for her. I canceled your insurance because she said we needed to cut unnecessary expenses. I let her hire that fucking lawyer to go after you because she said you were hoarding family assets. And the whole time she was... Derek. He looked up. Did you know about the gold before you sold the boat? No, I swear to God, Mom, I swear. She told me the boat was worthless. Said we could get maybe 10 or 12,000 if we were lucky. When the buyer offered 18, I thought we'd won the lottery. And the lawyer? The accusations? She showed me papers. Said she'd found something in Grandpa's old documents about hidden assets. Said you were keeping them from me because you never thought I deserved anything. His voice broke. I believed her. I'm so sorry. I believed her over you. I looked at my son, 37 years old, sitting on my porch surrounded by evidence of his own destruction. Withdraw the legal action, I said. Today. Then file for divorce. I want her out of your life by the end of the month. I already called Whitfield. Left a voicemail at 7 this morning. I'm withdrawing everything. Not good enough. You go to his office in person. You make sure it's filed today. Notarized, documented. Okay. Yes. I'll do it. And Derek? Yeah? The trust is already done. The gold is gone. In a place where no lawyer, no court, and no lying wife can ever touch it. You will never see a cent of it. His face crumpled. I understand. I don't think you do. Your grandfather spent 40 years saving that money. He worked double shifts. He saved tips. He skipped meals. Every dollar was for me. Not for a sports car. Not for a fake ring. For me. And you sold his legacy for $18,000 and a woman who was fucking her loan shark in a motel. Mom, you don't get to call me that right now. He flinched like I'd hit him. Go to Whitfield's office. Withdraw the case. Then go home and deal with your wife. He stood slowly, gathering the papers back into the box. He looked at me one more time, searching for something. Forgiveness, maybe. Permission to be my son again. I gave him nothing. He left. I called Morrow from inside the house. He's heading to the lawyer now. Can you follow him? Make sure he actually does it? Already on it. I'm parked 2 blocks away. Thank you. Helen, what are you going to do about the girl? I looked out my kitchen window at the street where Derek's car had been parked. Nothing. She's Derek's problem now. Morrow called me back at 2:30 p.m. It's done. Whitfield filed the withdrawal. I watched Derek sign the papers myself. Notarized, dated, submitted to the court. Good. There's something else. Derek went home after. I stayed outside. Things got loud. How loud? Screaming. Objects hitting walls. Then Madison came out. Suitcases. Lots of them. Derek was following her, yelling. She was laughing. My stomach tightened. Laughing? I recorded it. Thought you might want to hear. He sent me the audio file. I played it. Madison's voice, sharp and mocking. Acting like I'm the villain? Your grandfather was a senile old man with a boat full of junk. I did you a favor getting rid of it. Derek, his voice raw. You fucked Vincent. You sold my grandmother's ring. You destroyed my career. Your career? She laughed, that same glass-breaking sound from Thanksgiving. Baby, you never had a career. You had a job. A pathetic middle management job that was going nowhere. I saw opportunity and I took it. The gold was real, Madison. There was $340,000 hidden in that boat. A pause. Then, what? My mom found it. She's already moved it. We're never getting it now. Because of you. Another pause. Longer. Then Madison's voice, cold and steady. Well, at least I got what I wanted from your dead grandpa's scrap metal. That bracelet's worth more than anything you ever gave me, you pathetic fucking loser. The sound of something heavy hitting something else. Derek's voice. Get out. Get out of my house right now. Your house? Check the deed, sweetheart. My name's on it too. But you know what? Fine. I'm done with this dump anyway. And I'm done with you. The sound of a door slamming. Then Derek's voice, quiet and broken. Grandpa, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Then nothing. I sat in my kitchen with my phone in my hand and felt absolutely nothing. At 6 p.m., my doorbell rang again. I looked through the peephole. Derek, sitting on my porch steps, not standing, sitting, his head in his hands. I opened the door. He didn't look up. She's gone, he said quietly. Took everything worth anything. The TV, the laptop. She even took the fucking coffee maker. I stood in the doorway. I threw her out, he continued. Told her to leave. And she laughed at me. Said Grandpa was a senile old man and his boat was junk and his voice broke. She called him dead weight, Mom, on Thanksgiving. She posted it on Instagram and I didn't even defend him. I watched my son fall apart on my porch and felt the crack inside me widen. I don't know how to fix this, he whispered. I don't know how to fix any of this. You can't. He looked up at me. His face was destroyed. Some things don't get fixed, Derek. Some betrayals don't get forgiven. Some ships sink and they stay sunk. So that's it? You're done with me? I looked at him for a long moment. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I know this. You don't get to ask me for forgiveness. You have to earn back the right to even ask. How? That's your problem to figure out. I closed the door, and I listened to him cry on my porch for 20 minutes before his footsteps finally walked away. 8 months. That's how long it took for the silence between us to become something other than punishment. Derek started therapy in January. Dr. Richard Brennan, the same man who'd treated my father's PTSD in the 80s, the same therapist who'd helped a traumatized Navy veteran learn how to sleep through the night without seeing burning barracks. I didn't ask Derek to go. He chose it himself. He called me once a week, Thursday evenings, 7 p.m., never longer than 5 minutes. He'd tell me about his week, the job he'd taken at a warehouse after Pinnacle fired him, the apartment he was renting, the divorce proceedings. I'd listen. Sometimes I'd respond. Sometimes I wouldn't. He never asked for money, never asked for forgiveness, never asked for anything. In March, Thomas Whitmore called me. Helen, the man who bought the Mary Catherine, he wants to sell it back to you. My heart stopped. What? He feels guilty. Says he can't enjoy the boat knowing what it meant to your family. He's offering it for $25,000. That's $7,000 less than he paid. I didn't hesitate. Tell him yes. The restoration took 4 months. I hired a crew that specialized in vintage vessels, replaced the rotted planks, refinished the deck, repainted the hull in the original navy blue, found the original brass helm, the one Madison had melted down, in a maritime salvage yard in New Hampshire. It cost me $3,000 to buy it back and another $2,000 to restore it. I spent $80,000 of my father's gold bringing the Mary Catherine back to life. But I didn't restore it as a boat. I restored it as a memorial. The Captain Samuel Carter Floating Museum opened to veterans and their families. Free admission. Photographs of my father's Navy service lined the cabin walls. His letters, the ones he'd written to me over 40 years, were displayed in glass cases, not the originals, copies. The real ones stayed locked in a safe deposit box in Geneva. The museum opened in July. The mayor came. The local paper ran a story. Veterans I'd never met showed up to shake my hand and tell me stories about men they'd served with. Men who'd also saved every penny so their daughters wouldn't have to struggle. Derek didn't come to the opening, but James Morrow did, and Thomas Whitmore, and Dr. Brennan, who stood in front of my father's letters and cried. In May, I bought a house. Not just any house. The yellow house on Maple Street. The one with the white shutters and the garden full of roses. The house my father had pointed at every Sunday after church for 30 years. One day, he'd always said, I'm going to buy that house for you, princess. He never did, but his gold did. $50,000. Cash offer. The owners accepted within 24 hours. I moved in June 1st. For the first time in my life, I lived in a house that no one could take from me. No mortgage, no cosigner, no man's name on the deed, just mine. Derek called me on a Thursday in late August. Mom, I finished the program. Dr. Brennan says I've completed the recommended course. That's good. A pause. He wants to know if you'd be willing to do a joint session. Just one. You don't have to, but he thinks it might help. Help who? Both of us. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I called Dr. Brennan myself. The session lasted 90 minutes. We sat in chairs facing each other, Dr. Brennan in the corner, mostly silent, letting us navigate the wreckage ourselves. Derek told me things I already knew, how Madison had isolated him, manipulated him, made him believe that I was the problem. But he also told me things I didn't know, how he'd always felt inadequate compared to my father, how he'd spent his whole life trying to prove he was good enough, how Madison had made him feel important for the first time. She saw my weakness, he said quietly, and she used it. But that doesn't make it your fault, or Grandpa's. It was mine. I chose to believe her. I chose to hurt you. I didn't cry. I'd cried enough. Your grandfather believed in you, I said, even when you were screwing up, even when you were wasting your potential. He believed you'd be the man he raised you to be. I wasn't. No, you weren't. Can I try again? I looked at him, really looked at him. He'd lost weight. His hair was graying at the temples. He looked older, tired, but something in his eyes was different, clearer. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm not ready to trust you. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, but I'm willing to let you try. Saturday morning, September 14th. My doorbell rang at 7:30 a.m. Derek stood on my porch holding 2 fishing rods. Not new ones, old ones. Refinished, revarnished, the guides replaced, the reels cleaned and oiled. My father's rods, the ones he'd used to teach Derek how to cast when he was 7 years old. I found them in the garage of the old house, Derek said quietly. Spent 2 months restoring them. I thought, maybe we could go to the pier, like Grandpa used to take us. I looked at the rods, at my son, at the morning light just starting to turn the sky pink. I didn't say anything. I just went inside, grabbed my jacket, and walked past him down the porch steps. He followed. Pier 7 was empty. The water was calm. The air smelled like salt and coffee from the diner 2 blocks away. We sat on the edge of the pier. Derek handed me one of the rods. We baited the hooks in silence, cast the lines, waited. For 20 minutes neither of us spoke. Then Derek said, "I'm sorry." "I know. I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good." Another 5 minutes passed. A seagull landed on a piling nearby, watching us with one yellow eye. "Grandpa used to say something," Derek said. "When I'd mess up, when I'd tangle the line or lose the bait, he'd say, 'The sea forgives everything. Every sailor gets lost in the storm. What matters is whether you find your way back to shore.'" I remembered. Thursday evenings, summer sun, my father's patient hands guiding Derek's small fingers, showing him how to tie a clinch knot. "He believed that," I said quietly. "He believed everyone deserved a second chance after they got lost." "Do you believe it?" I watched my line drift in the current, thought about my father, about the gold bars with dates carved into them, about letters written in shaking handwriting by a dying man who wanted his daughter to be free, about the son sitting next to me, who'd betrayed me, who'd broken me, who was now holding a fishing rod his grandfather had taught him to use 30 years ago. "I don't know," I said. "Your grandfather always had more faith in people than I do." "Yes, he had faith in me, even when I didn't deserve it." "Yes, he did." Derek's line twitched. He jerked the rod slightly, testing the tension. "Nothing there. False alarm. I'm going to keep trying," he said. "Even if you never forgive me. I'm going to keep showing up. Every week, every month, however long it takes." I didn't respond. We sat there as the sun rose over Portland Harbor. 2 people fishing in silence. A mother and a son, separated by 8 months of winter, trying to find their way back to something that might, eventually, resemble family. I didn't know if we'd ever get there. But for the first time since Thanksgiving, I thought maybe, the ship hadn't completely sunk. Maybe it was just taking on water. And maybe, with enough work, with enough time, we could bail it out before it went under. Or maybe not. The sea would decide. I cast my line again and watched the sun turn the water gold.